I went over your bio. Very impressive.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Seriously, very, very impressive.
Thank you. So are you here in Rohini? In fact, have you joined the other Rohini
Okay.
here in the before meeting or here in Bangalore?
Okay, so we are live. Hello, everyone, students, teachers, educators, mentors. Welcome you all to the second session of Tinkerpreneur 2023, and that is how to learn cybersecurity. We have a distinguished guest today, Major Vineet Kumar and Rohini Kamath. So introducing Major Vineet Kumar, he is member of cybersecurity committees, Government of India and central government agencies. He is also member of UN agencies on cybersecurity and internet governance. He has also served as a member of NASCOM DSCI policy working group on cybersecurity set up by Honorable PM. Isn't this exciting, folks? Yes, our distinguished guest between us and speaking to you, sharing his views on cyber peace and cyber security. And the list of his achievements goes on, but for the paucity of time, I'll keep it to here only. I would also like to introduce Ms. Rohini Kamath. Rohini leads and provides technical guidance for teams in Cisco's email threat defense product. She has 18 plus years of industry experience. In her previous role, she has worked on voice over IP, virtual private network technologies, secure gateways, and secure email gateway products. Rohini is also the part of Cisco Women in Cybersecurity Network within the company and is passionate about the cyberspace and helping young users of the internet stay safe online. This is very important session for you students to protect your websites as you are also building some digital products from the cyber threats. Do listen to this very carefully and do put in your comments and questions in YouTube live. We will be taking in the last 10 minutes all your questions and doubts over this important session. So without further ado, I would like to invite Major Vineet Kumar to start with his introduction and can go over with the presentation.
Thanks, Shubham, and it's really a pleasure to be here among all of you. And again, hello to Rohini also who has joined me for the presentation. So it's really nice, and the way I have kind of planned my talk is I've just structured it in 20 minutes, though 20 minutes is, I would say, a very less time to convey, in fact, our experiences and what is cybersecurity, because it's actually like an ocean and a lots to cover. But yes, we'll leave you with some resources. So without wasting much time, I'll just quickly start off with my presentation here. So is my screen visible? Shubham, Rohini, can you confirm this one?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. So I'll just take a few seconds to brief about CyberPeace. So CyberPeace is world's first nonprofit civil society a think tank of cyber and tech policy experts who have come together. And we are a unique combination of a civil society, a think tank, and a research organization working in the space of cyber peace, cyber security, original thought leaders for the word cyber peace, actually. So cyber peace, cyber security, and we strongly believe that cyberspace should be used for good. So that's why we, in fact, believe in technology for good. The organization started here in India, but now we have expanded globally, and we have volunteers who come from different walks of life. So we have students, we have educators, we have people from the civil society, UN entities, from the government who come and in fact contribute together, because cyberspace we feel is multi-stakeholder, and it requires a multi-stakeholder approach to beat the issues that the space is facing today. So that's what is cyber peace. And moving on to Sorry, it seems there was a tech glitch. Are we back? Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes,
So
you're back.
just moving on to my presentation. So I generally start off with this slide, and one of my favorite slides, where I tell people about how the space has transitioned. And if it's a face-to-face kind of a meeting, I ask people, what do you see in this image? And I get different versions of this image. Somebody says it's world, koi bolta hai prithvi hai, and people give different types of names to the image. But I see that the entire world is changing, and we have a changing face of the world, of the whatever name you want to call it as, and it's something called as the cyber world. The green dot that you see is connected devices, and in fact, in India, 2025, we are going to touch 1 billion connected users. So you can imagine the kind of connectivity, the kind of gadgets, the kind of role the emerging tech is playing. It's outnumbering us, it's outnumbering humans. And that is how, in fact, the green dots are seen on the map as the way it is growing. But it also brings us to a lot of issues that we face today. And I'm going to talk about the issues with children and basically youth face today in terms of cyber. And some of the issues are related to bullying, cyber stalking, cyber harassment, phishing, smishing, wishing. There are a lot of financial frauds that happen. And other than these, in fact, we also see issues related to trafficking that is happening through the cyberspace. Cyber enabled trafficking is happening. Then we have sextortion related to cyber peace helpline is also flooded with cases of revenge pornography that happens. We see a lot of these cases coming up. The issue of child sexual abuse material, CSAM, which I am sure many of you know, is again a very big problem, which globally all the countries are working together to handle the issue. So all of these things are there, and again, there are many more things that we see will come in the times to come. But the entire idea of doing these kind of presentation is to make you resilient in the cyberspace. Nothing, it would be a wrong statement when I say there is 100% secure. There's nothing as 100% secure. It's something that you can be resilient from the attacks or crimes that happen towards you, and you should know the right tools, procedures on how you can go, what kind of mechanisms you can opt if you are being attacked or if somebody is trying to harm you in some way or the other. So certain crimes from traditional cyber crimes, people are moving to the crimes on Web 3.0, on the metaverse. Then there are attacks, the cyber attacks that have been happening, and you must have seen a lot of these news recently. In fact, nowadays I see a complete change. Whenever I read newspapers, I find one or two cyber related cases there, some kind of cyber attacks happening on a infrastructure or some kind of cyber crimes happening somewhere. So all of these things are common that is coming up. So I will now move on to the main part of the presentation. Is then why are we doing this is to get the digital superstars or digital superheroes like you who can come, and with every problem it also gives birth to a lot of opportunities. So this is what we are going to talk today, and empowering children to conquer the cyber world safely. You must have heard about the famous Spider-Man tagline, like with great powers, like Uncle Ben said, that with great powers comes great responsibilities. So I've tweaked it slightly and written with great cyber powers comes great responsibilities. And I forgot to add the word cyber, so pardon me, with great cyber responsibilities. So I'm going to talk about this. How do you become digital superheroes today? How do you become cyber resilient today? What kind of tools you need to have? And then finally, the reporting mechanism. That's going to be my flow. The basic rule is do not do something in cyberspace that you would consider wrong or illegal in your everyday life. And what would that mean is you need to respect others. You need to critically think. If you get a message or some communication from anyone, somebody reaching out to you with a fake information or a misinformation, you need to critically analyze whether this news is correct and not correct. You need to verify the sources before sharing. All of that should be considered before you forward that particular news or an article to somebody else. Then comes cyber hygiene. Now, cyber hygiene is personal hygiene. You already know what does personal hygiene mean, but what does a cyber hygiene means? So it's basically some do's and don'ts, like what you need to do in your phone, in your smartphone. There's certain set of things that you need to do, which again, I'll be leaving you with certain resources there, what you can do. Then it also talks about updating software, using strong passwords, securing your devices. So these are considered part of the everyday cyber hygiene that you need to follow. Then report abuse. So in Hindi, we say chuppi todo. So chuppi todo means something, if something is going wrong in your life, if you are silent about it, if you're not vocal about it, that means you are actually giving birth to additional set of crimes that may come towards you, that may come and target you in any form. So report abuse, report any kind of crime. If you witness any cyber crimes, harassment, or illegal activities, you need to report to them, to the relevant authorities. And here it would mean platform, it would mean the law enforcement, it would mean the local counselor that you have in the school, first responders. So that is what is basically, I would say, the founding gems of being a responsible digital citizenship. Responsible digital citizens. In fact, nowadays I've started using the word netizen more. I don't use citizen anymore because I consider we are netizen more, and we are part of the global crowd rather than being a citizen of a particular country. We are part of the global crowd when we talk about the cyberspace. Watch your digital footprint. Whatever goes online stays online. So think before you post anything. You need to balance your online as well as offline activities. Now that's very important because I have seen, again, there have been a lot of parents who have reached out to us and have sometimes said that children are spending around 20 hours on, say, internet, doing some kind of activities. While, in fact, COVID-19, one good aspect of COVID-19 had been that work from home, online schooling became the new norm. So you must thank COVID-19 that at least you got gadgets, and children, in fact, parents were kind of quite okay with the idea of giving gadgets to you. Okay, you do your online schooling there and you do your other set of activities. So that's one good aspect of COVID-19. But then there are other issues that have come up, is basically when you spend more time on technology, say 20 hours, 21 hours, and you just have 3 hours of sleep, then that gives birth to a lot of issues, mental health related issues crops up, physical health related issues crops up. So you need to balance online as well as offline here. Cyber safety measures. In fact, there's a thumb rule, I'll say, three rules that you need to follow. One is prevention, the other one is research, and the third one is response. Let me start off with the first one, prevention. So prevention, again, you can see that in the slide, the answers are right in front of you, what prevention would mean. And I'm sure majority of you would be knowing these best practices, but you need to guard your personal information like gold, like you protect gold in your house, you put gold in the locker. You need to protect your personal information at a place which is safe and somebody else does not have access to it. Don't just throw away your gold here and there so that anybody else can pick up and use it and may further exploit you. Strong passwords, use complex, unique password, not your girlfriend's name or your bike number or your car number, which probably I can guess and then I can hack into it. So use strong passwords, update software regularly. Again, any update that comes to your phone or the digital devices, it could be a refrigerator, washing machine. Now, many of these smart devices also have firmware inbuilt. So probably if you're not securing them, if you're not updating them, you're also risking them, and that can lead to any kind of cyber related issues from those digital devices as well, like your Alexas. So update your devices, applications, antivirus to patch vulnerabilities, secure Wi-Fi, protect your home Wi-Fi, and remember one thing, there are no free lunches. So if you're going to a coffee shop and using their free Wi-Fi, it could be something that you're exchanging in return, and that is your gold. Like I mentioned, your information is gold, you're exchanging your gold and then getting that free Wi-Fi. So be extremely cautious when you are on open Wi-Fi. Use virtual private networks. Think before you click, not anything like getting iPhone, say 14 Pro in just 5,999. Now, this may sound very interesting and exciting to you, but you may land up into some trouble by just clicking on that link. Maybe it's not just the financial information that you lose, but there could be a malware which may get installed in the background and then further exploit you. Privacy settings, very important. Every platform, whether OTT, whether social media, all of these platforms have security privacy settings. So please go there on the settings, go to the privacy settings, apply all the privacy settings that the platforms have, and review and adjust privacy settings on these platforms to control the information you share online. Multi-factor authentication, the two-factor authentication, just in case you lose your password, then you have still one form of OTP that comes into your phone, or it could be like a soft token or a hard token can be implemented. I'm sure Rohini would be talking more about it, so I'll skip that part where that's out of syllabus for me. But active reporting, very important, where netizens should actively report any kind of such content if the content is not related to you. Also, if you think maybe there's a child who has been exploited or who has been abused, then it's your responsibility. Remember, I talked about digital citizenship. You need to think about those issues. It may not harm directly to you, but it may be harming somebody else. So in that case, report that particular image. Stranger danger, like it's a problem in the real world. So is the cyberspace, where when you interact with your friends or people in your real life, they're still safe, but you avoid interacting with strangers on social media and platform. Authentic apps, and especially here, because there are children who are here, I like to make a mention about certain games like PUBG got banned. And suddenly there are a lot of APKs that got circulated everywhere. Download PUBG Gold Edition and all that. And what we came across was, and a lot of these crimes were reported to us also, that children did download such application thinking that they'll get to play PUBG, and eventually they got into a wrong trap. So be extremely careful when you download these kind of apps from unknown sources. Always download it from authentic app store or Apple store. Use antivirus, anti-Trojan applications, internet security applications. Again, this is something that you'll hear it later. So I'm just touching upon them. And some final checklist. Intimate pictures. Whatever cross that you see is something that you should not do. I see a lot of students and in fact youngsters who have certain content on their phone that they wouldn't find it okay to be shared in public. So wherever you have those pictures, supposing you have taken some photographs going to a changing room in, say, a mall and all that. So those photographs is something I would say it's very personal. And if it gets into a wrong hand, it may be abused. So no to intimate pictures. Geolocation should be off. It should be only enabled when you require it. No to strangers. Update security settings regularly. Update application regularly. Review tags and mentions that there is a very good feature on the social media account. Enable the login alerts. And then login from public Wi-Fi is discouraged when you do sensitive transactions. When it comes to research, do read about it. The best thing that I do is daily going to different blogs, different kind of news sources, which also tells me on what kind of crimes are happening, what are the future crimes, like how is deepfake coming up and kind of targeting youngsters, young users, children, women, vulnerable population. So it's a good resource. So always keep yourself aware about what's latest, what are developments in the cyberspace and different kind of issues that come along. Response, always be responsive. I've already talked about different reporting portals that are there. You should be aware that there are already guidelines that are being made. As we speak, the IT Act is already, the new version of IT Act we are going to see soon. The Digital India bill eventually, which will become an act, is going to come soon. So IT Rules 2021, which has been recently amended, has also empowered users. Now, if the social media platforms are not listening to your queries, your ID has been hacked, but they are not responding to it, now you have an option to go to the grievance appellate committee that has been set up under the IT rules. Ministry of Electronics and IT has a committee. You can simply report about your case to them and they will take some strict actions if the platforms are not hearing about you. There are rules related to gaming. There are rules related to digital media ethics. So you need to follow those rules and rules of responsible online behavior, and that's how you can keep yourself secure. Government is doing a lot in terms of these initiatives, and you'll see it more when it comes. Now, finally, I like to end up with certain reporting platforms and channels that I was mentioning, that if something goes wrong and if you find something not okay, then please speak up about it. And these are the reporting platforms. And number one on the list is cybercrime.gov.in. Any crime, be it a child-related crime or something that's not child, it's something maybe a financial fraud or any kind of cyber-related fraud, can be reported on cybercrime.gov.in. Crimes related to children can also be reported to ncpcr.gov.in. Crimes related to women can be reported on ncw.nic.in. And remember, the first reporting should always be on the platform. Say, for example, if there's a crime that happens to me on Instagram, Instagram has an option of reporting. Report that particular problem to Instagram. Another good thing that I like to share here is something called as DMCA. It's Digital Millennium Copyright Act, in short DMCA. This is applied to all the US based platform like Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp, in fact, all the family of Google applications like YouTube and all. If you find any content of yours that has gone public without your consent, then you can get your content taken down yourself by just filling up the DMCA form on the platform. Prove yourself about your identity, and then the platforms are liable to take that content down immediately if they are convinced. So it's a very good tool, I would say, that as students you can make good use of. And remember, DMCA does not require police intervention. You can do it directly. So while you may follow the parallel processes of reporting to the police, to the local cyber police station, but parallelly you can report to DMCA immediately by filling up the form. There are other kind of helpline numbers. 1930 is another helpline number that you should remember. CyberPeace also runs a helpline, but it's just a victim assistance helpline. Just in case you are stuck, there are certain times that students don't feel okay in going to the police, walking up to the police, and they need assistance also in reporting crime. So that's where the helpline, CyberPeace helpline 957 Penta 066 can be of help. I like to leave you with a lot of resources that are there, because like these 20 minutes are not enough. So these are some good handbooks. CBSE has a complete book. NCRT has complete book on cyber safety. AIM has a lot of material again on cyber safety, cyber security. All of that is there. I've left those QR codes here, and it's also available on our website, cyberpeace.org. You can also join the CyberPeace volunteers movement. And like I said, anybody can contribute for a peaceful cyberspace, whether you are a student, whether you are techie, whether you are a senior government official, you can all join together to make a peaceful and secure cyberspace for everyone. We also host the annual cyber safety, online safety competition with Ministry of Education called eRaksha, which I'll share the slide later. But through the Cyber Peace Core initiative, you can start clubs in school, you can start capacity building sessions, you can build a network of cyber peace first responders, cyber peace ambassadors, and together we can make a safe community. I was talking about the eRaksha competition. Here it is. The website is eraksha.net. Again, as of now, it's an official G20 event. You can go to eraksha.net. You can showcase your creative skills, whether it is like making blogs or creating a Instagram reel. You can come up with your creative ideas, participate in the competition, and you may even line up to get a prize from the education minister on online safety. So it's a good competition to go for. And finally, again, I'm just I'm almost done. I'm sorry for extending for a few more minutes, Rohini. My apologies. But this is where now I'd like to hand over the baton to you, where digital superheroes. So India's cyber frontier awaits the young guardians, and you are those young guardians who can actually play a role. There's a huge skill shortage, 3.1 million globally. And in India also, I was just going through some reports by DSCI and all, who have forecasted a lot of these kind of experts who will come up in different areas like 5G security, IoT security, metaverse, AR, VR. So plenty of opportunities. And like I mentioned in the start, it's just an ocean, and it's a big ocean for you. And depending on whatever is your interest area, whether you want to be a content creator, or you want to be a hardcore techie, you want to be a malware researcher, you want to be a pen tester, I see a lot of opportunities that is in store for you in the future. And like I said, it's an ocean of opportunities also. And with that, I'd like to end. I'll wait for the Q&As, and I'd like to hand over to Rohini now for the session to be continued. Thank you so much for your patient hearing.
Thank you so much, Major Vineet, for your insights. So I will just pass it on to Rohini for her session, and at the last, we will take all the queries from the students. Yeah, over to you, Rohini. Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon, and thank you, Shubham and Vineet, for the introduction. I'm so delighted to be here. And I think all the students now have phones and tablets because of COVID-19. And I think we don't really realize how powerful they are. They allow us a lot of freedom. They can tell us weather, let us play games, songs, movies. They let us pay for things. They control the lights in our homes. And it can all seem like magic. And it's only possible because of technology and computers. So when I was a child, my father used to bring home these interesting gadgets. He was an electronics engineer, so he used to bring them from his office, and I used to play with them and figure out how to make them work. And this is what first interested me in computers. So if computers are interesting you, it could be the start of a good journey for all of you. And now I have a daughter. She is 8 years old, and like all of you, she is curious, she's interested to try and explore new things, and she kind of wants to figure out how they work all on her own. And the internet is a very great tool for doing this. So it's good for searching for information. It can help us look for new things, teach us new things. There are videos and pictures there that can make us laugh. We can play games. We can have video calls with our friends, and it can be a lot of fun. But like Vineet said, we do need to be aware of some of the dangers that are out there, and we want to make sure that we are careful. So today, I want to tell you about some of the things that we should watch out for, so that you can be safe when you are online while you're still having fun. Next slide, please, Shubham. So some of the threats that you're there, that you're kind of likely to encounter when you're online, would be starting with online predators. Now, your parents and teachers would have told you to be careful, to avoid talking to strangers, and I want you to do the same when you're online, because it's much easier for people online to pretend to be someone else. It's easy for people to make fake accounts with photos and names, pretend to be somebody else, talk to you nicely and try to get information from you. And before you share anything, a photo or video, or say or like something online, I want you to think if you would be okay with everybody in your class or everybody in your family seeing that and knowing that you said that. And I like to use that as a thumb rule myself, that if there's a picture or something that I said and it came in the newspaper tomorrow that I said it, I should be okay with that. So if you use that as a thumb rule, then you know that you're confident, whatever you shared, it's something that you're okay with. We also have some things that we need to worry about around identity, phishing, and malware. Now, so it's important not to believe everything that we see on the internet. And like Vineet said, there are no free lunches. So some of the links have attractive, clickable, captions. There are apps and games that come up as pop-ups and ads. They ask you to install things. They ask you to subscribe. So think carefully on that and never share your name or details anywhere unless you inform an adult. And sometimes games and apps will try to steal information from your phone and your laptop. And I know that a lot of children will think that as a child, I don't have anything that anyone would want to steal. But your identity, which is your email ID, and information about you, like your home address, your age, your photographs, this data is valuable to hackers, and it can allow them to steal your identity. And I want to touch upon something that Vinny mentioned. He talked about multi-factor authentication. So this is what you can do as a step to prevent yourself from having your identity stolen. So if you have multi-factor authentication enabled, it's harder for people to, even if they get access to some of your data, like your password or your login, it's harder for them to be able to log in and assume your identity. Now, a lot of things on the internet is actually meant for adults. And if you're a child, it can seem violent, scary, or even confusing if you accidentally stumble upon them. So just to be safe, and I know it's hard, but please try to stick to sites that are meant for children. And if you do accidentally happen to see things that, are confusing to you or scary, it is good to talk about it. Talk about it to your friends, your teachers, or an adult whom you can trust, and make sure that it's something you speak about. So don't keep it to yourself if you're afraid of something. So Vineet talked about this too, cyberbullying, and it's a thing that's much easier when we are online. It's easier to say or like things that sound cool or seem cool, and but they can actually be pretty mean or hurtful to others. And we probably would never say such things in person or in day-to-day life or when we are face to face. But if you see this sort of thing happening with yourself or with your friends, I want you to talk to your parents or your teachers or some older person, like someone whom you might trust, like an elder sister, brother, cousins. But in short, be responsible. And this knowledge that you get from today's session, share it with your friends, those younger than you, so that they too can be safe. Next slide, please. So now that we've talked a little bit about some of the threats, I want to talk about some products that we use in the industry to protect our networks and ourselves. So just like your home or your school will have boundary walls, it'll have gates, security guards they will control who can come in. They'll check whether you have the necessary permissions. They'll make sure that you leave when your job is done. So similarly in computer networks, and you will have these in your schools and also in offices, they will have firewalls and VPNs. So we need to touch upon this too, virtual private networks. So they are basically our form of boundary walls, gates, and guards for our networks. And for our personal devices, our tablets, our laptops, phones, and any other devices that we have, right? And those are things that we call endpoints. We have endpoint security systems. So they run on our devices and they make sure that we've not downloaded viruses. They make sure that we are only connecting to good or allowed networks. They also make sure some of the apps that are running on our devices aren't exporting or sharing our data outside that we may not be aware of. So these are some of the things that we need to make sure we have on our personal devices. We also have secure web-based email gateways. So your school will probably have these too. And you might have sometimes seen when you try to access some sites, your browser might show a message which says that such a site can harm your computer or your school may block certain content. And that's why it's there. They make sure that you don't accidentally click on any harmful links, that you don't get some junk or spam emails, or you don't get phishing emails with some links which will, prompt you to share information that you would have otherwise not shared. Now, for all your school, whenever you go, you will have an ID card. And that ID card allows you to access parts of your school, and people without an ID card would not be allowed in. So, and some of you will probably also have parental controls on your phones and tablets. And if you don't, and I know this is hard, please ask your parents to enable parental controls. Uh, so once you have those enabled, you will need to ask an adult before you install an app or before an app, maybe deduct some money for something or before you can watch something. So these are ways in which we control access and we also verify identity. So similarly, on networks, we can control what users can see, what they can do, what they're allowed to do, and how long they're allowed to do it. And if any of you have ever had a fire drill or an earthquake drill in school, you know that your school will have an emergency response team. So they will be the ones who will sound the first alert. They will come help you evacuate, and they'll keep you safe. So similarly, on networks, we have teams whose job it is to monitor the network, make sure that everything is working well. And in case it's not, if there's a problem or the network's under attack, that's when that incident response team sweeps in and they shut down parts of the network, they quarantine off sections, they cordon off sections, right? And make sure that it is safe, and then they reopen the network when it's back. So these are some of the things, and you'll see a lot of them are very similar to what you have in real life, but we just have them for networks instead. So it's easier to kind of have an analogy on how these products really work. Next slide, please, Shubham. So now I want to talk about email. And I work on email security at Cisco. And in the industry, we consider email as the number one threat. And I know this is hard because, people tend to think, how can an email harm me? But we really need to think about how many emails there are. And there are billions of emails that are sent every day for a lot of things. The things that we buy, food delivery, packages that we order, uh, emails are sent with information. There are ads, sometimes there are updates. Your parents will get, messages, emails about their bank accounts, updates on those, insurance. And even as a child, if you need to create an account for anything, you will need to first provide your email address. So I know all of you have email addresses. And for those accounts which you create, you'll get your login link or your password on that email. And in order to be able to watch this session, most of you would have an email address for sure. So that's what makes email one of the biggest, attack surfaces. Because they're so available and everybody has them and there's so much of it, it's much easier for hackers to start here. So emails are sometimes used for targeted attacks, and we call that phishing, where attackers try to trick people into sharing information like your name, your login, or your password. And emails can have attachments, and those attachments can have viruses or malware that will infect your devices and try to steal your data. And that includes access to anything that you might have on your phones. And sometimes I know that people tend to use, people give their phones to their children sometimes. So if you're using your parents' phones, please be even more careful because your parents would have a lot of things enabled on their phones that might not be available on your own tablets. So please be super careful when you're using your parents' phones. Know that emails can also be faked. So we call that spoofing. So where someone tries to make an email look like it is coming from a trusted person, from your school or from a, popular brand that you know. And it will send you an email with a link which tells you, click on this to get something free, or we have a sale, or, if you click on this, we will give you a discount, right? So things like that. So be very careful. And I think Vineet had already mentioned this, that there are no free lunches. So if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So be super careful. Don't click on any links without checking carefully where they come. And also never share any information about yourself or install any apps without checking with an adult first. Next slide, please. So now that we've looked at some of the things that the industry does, I also wanted to quickly touch upon some jobs and careers. These are like if you like computer science and you like being on the internet, you might want to consider working on some of these products. And for the first three things like architecture, development, and deployment of cloud services, uh, here's where you design such products, the things that I talked about, the firewalls, the VPNs, right? Security products. You might want to write code for them. You might even want to set them up, test them, prepare them for production. And for things like data analysts and data scientists, I don't know if but most of you might have used closed captioning, or you might have used language translations on video platforms like Netflix, Prime Video, YouTube. So these are examples of machine learning. So for that, we need people who are called data scientists or analysts. And what they do is they train computer algorithms to learn a new skill like translating a language. So similarly, it's possible to teach computers to, learn various new skills. And for that, we need people like data scientists and analysts. And we need to talk about some laws and acts that the government is coming up. So governments will keep making laws, new laws, and they will help us to stay safe online, keep our data safe. But as that happens, we also need people who will make sure that our products will follow these laws. And those are called data and privacy officers. So most companies will need those to make sure that they are compliant and they are following those laws, because otherwise they won't be able to sell their products. So data and privacy officers are also a very new and upcoming career option in this industry. And just like we have firefighters, right, who come in and they're ready to stop fires from spreading and they protect our buildings and our property, we also have incident response teams. They do the same thing for our networks and for our products. They make sure everything is working normally and that no data is lost. So those people are there like sometimes 24/7. They work in shifts to make sure that there's always somebody somewhere monitoring your network and making sure people are safe. So I hope that many of you choose to work in this field because as Vineet said, we do have quite a gap between our demand and supply. Uh, and we do need smart people like you to make our products better, faster, and easier to use. And I just want to leave you with this one message. Think before you click. Stay safe. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Major Vineet and Rohini, for this insightful session. And the messages are flowing on that the session is very insightful and they have learned a lot. Meanwhile, they have put up some questions as well. We will take it one by one. Okay, and either of you can choose to answer that. Okay, some are very exciting questions. Maybe we all have like experienced this in our daily lives. So these are the questions from those. Okay, so how can they identify that the site is fake if they are getting a link? Is it a way to know that okay, they should click or not click? How to identify the fake site?
So typically, when you see a site, right, when you see a link, it's good to look at the full URL. And sometimes when attackers form these URLs, they also use things like if you've seen the letter O, there is also another symbol, and this is there in European languages, which has O with two dots at the top, right? So sometimes they create one site with where they replace the Google with that O will sometimes be a zero. Sometimes it will be an O with two dots at the top, which is a different character. So that's one way. When you see the whole URL, right, just look at, and maybe, I don't know, you'll probably cover this in some of your bootcamp things to identify the domain, right? So the domain part of the URL, because it will seem like it'll start with Google dot, or, Amazon.com dot, and then there will be, mydaddy.com or godaddy.com, something like that. So when you see double domain names, don't just see the beginning, see all the way till the end. So that's one quick way. And in general, if you see emails like this, if the grammar and the spellings look off, that's usually the fastest way to know, because uh, big companies will have very stringent checks on grammar, spellings, and other things. So if any of these things seem off to you, that's your first flag.
Sure, thanks, Rohini. Yeah,
Yeah,
Nijanil,
can I
do you
start?
want to add something? Yeah.
Yes, in fact, we have also seen some of the browsers, like if you say Google Chrome, if you try to open these kind of URLs, it also gives you like a sign, there's a red bar, the entire URL bar turns red and shows that it's an insecure site. So these are also some of the signs, like on the browser also it alerts you, it doesn't allow you to open it, mention that it's a suspicious link, do you want to go ahead and continue browsing? So these are also the sign, just in case you accidentally clicked on that link, then at least you should not be ignoring these signs that come towards you. And most of the advanced internet security systems and applications, and I'm sure Cisco also has many, it also alerts you today that this particular site is fishy or it's something that has malware. It gives you those alerts today.
Yeah, probably this is the related question ki on each Diwali they get a link called a rolling wheel. Okay, and they have to click on it and earn some money. So all the students are telling, okay, I have rolled it once in my lifetime, every time on Diwali. Okay, so the next thing is ki how does cyber crimes flow? Is there a kind of a particular flow? How do the cyber crimes flow? If you can just light upon it, or there is no particular flow for these cyber crimes?
So flow as in fact, like I mentioned in the slide earlier, there are some traditional based crimes that happen like the financial frauds and all that. So it's not something that I would say it's a proper structured kind of a crime, but then that has just originated. And now it's just becoming more and more organized with these kind of organized crime and application of tech. Like I like to name a particular region. In fact, I come from that state. I'm from Ranchi, Jharkhand, and there's a small village there called as Jamtara. And most of you, there's a Netflix series also on that, and you'd kind of understand how these bunch of guys who had probably no clue about cyber crimes, they landed up, they did a one-day capacity building workshop on using phones and then calling people and asking them that I'm calling from XYZ bank and you need to share your OTP or else I am blocking your phone number. So ideally the MO is such that number one, they try to create that scare that your card will be blocked or your banking account will be blocked, your money would be withdrawn. So they'll try to create that factor. The other thing is there are things wherein they'll say like romance scams is another thing where they'll offer you like they are from a dating website and they are kind of inviting you to join the dating website. So they kind of get you in those traps as well. And third one is basically trying to trap you into something like a very nice offer, like get a bungalow in just 5 lakh rupees. Like Rohini was also mentioning about these kind of scams, like iPhone 14 Pro. I also mentioned in my talk earlier. So it's something that they try to play around with the minds of people. So it depends that people do a proper kind of research. And some of these crimes now, in fact, are also making use of deepfake and all, where you get called from a particular number. It may be the same number that is of say toll free of a particular bank. So it's very easier through these tools to fake that number, fake voice. It's very easier to kind of fake a video also. All of that technology based abuses are happening, but it is something that in fact as a user, as an end user, we have to be smart enough to kind of understand that how these things are happening. There are crimes that are happening at local level. There are crimes like you mentioned about that spin a wheel. You must have got certain WhatsApp forwards wherein they must have mentioned that you work from home during COVID-19, work from home and earn from 500 to say 50,000 rupees per day. Now, when we studied these kind of crimes, we have an open source intelligence team. We studied those links, and when we studied in detail, we found that these kind of links originated from a foreign country. I'll not like to name that country here, but it's there in the reports. People can see that. And it's very difficult to attribute cyber crimes. Also, that's one major challenge that this space has. But still, these were foreign IP addresses. So one crime that happens locally from the territory, from your neighborhood, it could be a person sitting, maybe staying next to your house, maybe hacking your open Wi-Fi or hacking your vulnerable network and doing a crime through your network. It could be crimes utilizing these kind of very advanced phishing campaigns done by countries. It's a country-sponsored kind of cyber crimes. Then you have these cyber attacks and cyber warfare. Cyber is already actually the fifth dimension of warfare other than land at sea and space. So every country is kind of investing heavily onto building their cyber capabilities, and some countries are also working to build their offensive capabilities as well.
Thank you, Vineet, for this. Uh, Another important question is कि they have a doubt कि okay, how can they identify their data being stolen? Okay, what are some common indicators that we can say कि okay, my network or my computer may have been compromised?
Rohini, would you like to take this up or
Yeah,
shall I?
so if you sometimes get emails, right, which tell you that, and most of the social media accounts, for example, you will send you emails when you have logged in from a different device that you normally don't use. So if you get an email which tells you that a new login has come from a new device, it'll also tell you the kind of device and what time it came in. So if you start seeing that, right, that's when you know that one of your accounts at least has been potentially compromised. Either that, or if you yourself have logged in from some other place, right? Make sure that you don't, because sometimes our browsers automatically save our passwords, right? So make sure you never do that. That's one for sure. The other way in which you could potentially know this, you will sometimes suddenly get OTPs, right? Because most of the media sites, or even the major accounts that you might have, right? Google, Gmail, Facebook, they will all have two-factor authentication. So when you suddenly get an OTP, right, that's when you know that something's wrong. And in the worst case, where you don't have multi-factor authentication enabled, be aware of what's being posted for your profile. So if you see that your content has changed, your profile looks different, you've got a different photo there, yeah, your account has been taken over. So that's the thing, and that's why multi-factor authentication is so important. And never share your passwords with anybody.
Thank you, Rohini. And another question is, and that is probably for Atal Innovation Mission as well. Okay, so they are asking, okay, there are some links which they get to register. Okay, so for example, let's say this boot camp. Okay, so we have taken registration from students and we have put an OTP authentication factor and email authentication factor. It's again, okay, a two-factor authentication being done. Okay, but they also receive some emails, ki, okay, register here, register there. So how do they get to know, ki, okay, is it a potential threat or is it a genuine email where we can register and go ahead with? Yeah.
So I'll just give one thing here. So whenever you have a URL, right, or a link, there are resources, and probably we can share it after this program, where you can check the score of a URL. And many of the security products that the industry has do this. So you can check how good or bad a URL is. And URLs which are recently created, they tend to have very low scores, right? So people can just bring up a website, use it just for the purpose of attacks and phishing, and then just delete it. So those will be URLs which will have very low score. So even if no one's seen them before, right, those will have low scores. So you can use such resources online. If you think that I have a doubt, I am suspicious of this URL, use something that will score your URL, and we can share some links later, resources for where you can get this, and find out how good or bad the URL score is. So well-known companies like Amazon, Google, will all have very high scores. And government agencies, they'll all have very high scores. So that's one way in which you can be for sure. That's in general for any URL.
In fact, I'll just like to add something like during the workshop. That's the when we take sessions in the boot camp. We'll be giving access to certain tools also that exist. Those are open source tools like URL shortening. A lot of these cyber crime criminals, what they do is they make use of these URL shorteners like Bitly and all that, and kind of share those phishing links to the end user. So there are certain kind of websites, like for example, Virus Total being one of them, where you just take that link, you just scan that link, and that link, they are able to tell whether this is correct or malicious. They have different signatures, also different kind of, they have a tie-up with the internet security and in antivirus companies, where they kind of check through their signatures, and then they report that, say they have a list of 40 such signatures, and they'll say that 38 of them have reported non-suspicious and it is safe to use, and 2 of them have reported suspicious. So you can go through these websites to kind of make those decisions. So if you feel that there's something wrong and it looks fishy, there are tools that exist.
Okay, so we are coming on to the last question, and the chat has been overflown by this question. Are cookies safe? Should we accept it?
So cookies are used for tracking. Okay, so they are sometimes useful, right? because that site knows that you've come second time, it can give you good recommendations. And if that's something that you are after, then yes, cookies are safe. But depending on what it is used for, right? Again, because cookies are used for tracking, the things that can be used for good can also be used for things which might not necessarily be useful for you. So it allows websites to know where you've been and track you. So for this reason, cookies are not good. But if you turn off recommendations, you will get content which may not be meaningful to you. So it's a double-edged sword. So the answer to that is use well-known sites which follow all the internet norms, which follow all the acts that Vinny talked about, right? So if you use those well-known sites, then your cookies are probably okay to use. But if you want to be safe and you want to be like doubly sure and paranoid, which is what most of the people in the industry are, you probably want to avoid cookies.
I will also echo the same what Rohini has said. And in fact, the third-party tracking cookies, what we have seen is it's very something risky and can be used to track behavior of the users across multiple websites, which can also be an invasion of privacy. So those are high risk, but there are controls that exist. Like there are browser settings wherein you can adjust your browser settings to manage your cookies. For example, blocking all third parties cookies can help to reduce tracking as well. Regular clearing of cookies is also an option where you can clear those cookies just in case if you want to keep your session private. There are browser add-ons also that exist which can be utilized to keep yourself safe. And then you have in Google, you have also have the incognito mode wherein you can go into the incognito mode and do such browsing in case you are very much privacy conscious and you don't want cookies to track what you are doing.
There are also some browsers which will keep track of, I know of one, it's called, I think, the Ghost browser, but there are other browsers as well, which will keep track and they will actually show you a count of what all is being tracked on that particular site. So if you're going to a site where there is a lot of such things, maybe you want to avoid that site, or maybe you want to just block cookies for that site.
Thank you so much, Major Vineet and Rohini, for this wonderful session. I'm sure that students would have gained some very nice insights on cyber security. And we have covered almost all questions. If there would be other questions, I would be writing you over email and we can take this in the further sessions. So, student, this is for today's session. We have covered cyber security, and I hope you all have received the email today in the morning on how to check your mentors, and for the mentors, how to check your mentees. There is a link, okay, and you can just give your details, and you can check your mentors and mentees. Okay, the next session is scheduled on 16th of June, and it is on how to build and refine your product. So we hope that till 15th, you might have at least thought of what you would be building on a website, an app, a blog. There are so many digital products you can build upon. And on 16th, we will have the insights on how you can build and refine your products. So stay tuned for more sessions. We would be giving you all the updates for this boot camp. And this is just the start of boot camp. You are into the week one. We have 7 weeks part for it. So go slow, learn the process, and just be in touch with your mentors. Okay, and all these skills, I am pretty sure that whatever you are acquiring the digital skills will make sure that your digital product will be of very high quality. Okay, thanks. Thank you, Major Vineet and Rohini, for joining us. This is all for this session. Okay. Thank you,
Thank you
students.
so
Thank
much.
you,
Thank you.
Thank you.
educators.
Thank you. It
Bye.
was
Yeah.
pleasure.